All right, Doom Vivamus Vivamus Epicureans, welcome to another episode of the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Good, because as usual, we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club. This one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is X-Men number 108. Let's see if I can get that up on the screen. There we go. Armageddon Now. John Byrne takes over on arts, Terry Austin on inks, and as I mentioned in the last episode, Cockrum was struggling to meet deadlines, but John Byrne was a relatively new talent who made a name by making his deadlines, and I suspect this is why he ended up being put on this book. And this is a wild issue. The Macron crystal causes reality to momentarily blink out of existence and leaves the X-Men with increasingly powerful guardians that they have to defeat. Ultimately, they end up inside the crystal, and Jean calls upon the power of the Phoenix to feed off the life force of Storm, Corsair, and the others who are present to somehow prevent the crystal from untangling all reality and ultimately spitting the X-Men back onto the Earth. That's a weird one. Stojr, your thoughts?
Definitely a weird one with the explanation. John Byrne coming on here. I love this era of John Byrne's art. No, I love Cockrum's art also, but this feels like X-Men and kind of going through the series and going through this era of X-Men, which is so funny because I highly dislike his Amazing Spider-Man in the 90s and where his art style evolved into. It's weird seeing this early stuff. When I was first introduced to his Amazing Spider-Man in around the year 2000, it was the next chapter, I think it was called. This stuff is really, really strong, really tight. As you said, he gets things out on time. I really enjoyed this issue. I feel like it did get a little complicated. Also felt like the although it happened maybe 30 or plus years beforehand, it reminded me of the Guardians of the Galaxy where they all had to hold hands to not get destroyed by something as it sort of leveled out their power, the power of the thing. There's a lot of other little tidbits in here I found very interesting. So it's like the minute John Byrne gets involved, and by the way, for years I thought his name was Brine, that's how I pronounced it in my head because I never heard it out loud and never bothered to phonetically say it correctly. So I've been relearning how to say his name since I've the last decade or two when I realized what it was. But as soon as he gets on the title, we get introduced to the larger Marvel universe, which we really didn't have since the beginning with this new X-Men. So we get the Fantastic Four and the Avengers introduced very quickly in this issue. I know Reed made a brief cameo at the end of last issue. They're in this bigger world. Only the X-Men can take care of it. There's also there's a character Joff or Jaoff. His name has an apostrophe in it, depending on when they talked about it. And my brief research of this character, the only appearances he really has is around now, as well as in the 90s when I was introduced to him during the Age of Apocalypse storyline. So he shows up in Uncanny X-Men 320 when the Mcron crystal is basically blinking out because of the Back to the Future problems that Legion had caused during I don't remember what the storyline was called, the one that was like a precursor to Age of Apocalypse, but whatever it was. He goes back in time, accidentally kills Professor X when he's trying to kill Magneto, and then causes like these time ripples, which for some reason causes the MCon crystal to explode and all of these problems that have. So this character, Joff, shows up then. I always thought, like, what is this weird little troll character? Why did they just pull him out of nowhere? Well, he was a 20 or 30-year-old callback at that particular time. And he shows up in the Gambit and the External series during Age of Apocalypse because that's where they're going to get like a sliver of the crystal to undo everything and whatever. That's a storyline for another day. So all of these things kind of pulled together and I found very interesting throughout here. I mean, that little troll guy is super powerful. The stories here as it pertains to Corsair. Like you feel like plot lines are getting accelerated very quickly, and all of these different things are being touched upon. It's a great start. It's a great start for this combo that will be on the title for a while and probably end too soon. I mean, they probably could have went longer if they didn't have to separate, about what, 50 issues from now due to creative differences. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this I think this is maybe my only exposure to the Jaw Off, that little troll guy. He's cute, but also could whoop your ass, which is fun. And yeah, there's so much in this issue. I try to keep my summaries brief, but there's certainly a lot of important revelations happening here. We finally learn that Corsair is Cyclops' father. This is a decision that I think I saw Cockrum had come up with to try to keep a reason for having the Starjammers appear in this book constantly. Maybe it was Claremont and not Cockrum. I don't really remember now. Lilandra also has been returned to Earth with the X-Men. She proclaims that she and Xavier are lovers. So that, of course, is an interesting development, and also begs an uncomfortable question that I'm not sure we might need to put an explicit tag on this if I keep going here. But the Shi'ar are evolved from birds, right? So Lilandra, is she sporting a cloaca? Is that what's going on here?
I mean, if they're making out, is that, I don't.
Yeah, but maybe
No judgment.
Professor X might be into some dirtier stuff than we would think. But yeah, it's comic books. Don't think about it too much, right?
I'm not one that kink shame anybody.
Sure.
So to each of their own.
So long as they're happy and they both consent, right? To John Byrne, his art is lovely as always. I missed his run on Spider-Man. I think I already said once before, I took a break during the Clone Saga. I didn't come back until it was John Romita Jr. back with J. Michael Straczynski, right? I got in on that run. So I've since gone back and bought all of those Byrne issues, but I read them out of order, so it's just a jumble in my mind. It didn't have that much of an impact. But after Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four are my favorite book, and I loved his run on the Fantastic Four. So to see his style here with the X-Men kind of gives me that warm feeling of comfort, right? And he certainly played with big panels full of sound effects a couple of times in this issue, and I just thought that was fun, like the reality blinking out of existence. It just says blink in there. So, again, strong start for the Byrne era with Claremont. I know I think we got another issue coming up that is a fill-in that's not Byrne, but looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's see, Stojr, anything else you want to add anywhere people can find you on the internet? We can add your link tree to these now. We can do that.
Yeah, we'll add our link, the links to the description. But on TikTok, YouTube, on Stojr's Shelf, I'm gonna do unboxings, talk about some deep dives of DC Finest and omnibuses, as well as some of these things that we team up for here.
Yep, and I'll add as we're recording this, we just did our Morbius recording, so you can find that on YouTube. We're also posting those as just pure audio podcasts as well. I know it's on Spotify. It should be on a few others. Not quite sure if we're on Apple yet. Might still be waiting on that one. But if you'd rather listen to long form stuff on audio format, hey, it is there, right? All right, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, again, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full Epic Collection trade paperback every other week. We just got out of Morbin time. We're going on to Fantastic Four after all these X-Men stuff. Thank you very much for watching.
I'm going.